Welcome back to Tales from the Road with Dr. Jill Windy. I'm Dave Dufour. We're talking about cat nutrition and what can maybe go wrong when you don't feed your cat properly.
Yes.
Cats are little manipulators, aren't they? They like to, they can be manipulative and they like to kind of romance you into giving them more food, even more than sometimes dogs.
Yes, and I don't really like to think of them so much as manipulators as this is the way the world is.
That's right.
And you just must conform.
They're controllers. They're controllers. There you go. All right. Okay. So what are some of the disease problems that we can run into when the nutrition isn't right?
Well, there are several, and this is certainly not an all-inclusive list. So we picked three kind of more common ones that we may see. Far and away, the whole shebang winner is going to be obesity. Number one is our fat cat.
There's the fattest cat in the world for 2011. I
there
believe.
you go.
There we go. And
unfortunately, inside a cat's body, there is no such phrase as fat and happy. So there's just way too many things that go wrong. So what is overweight? How do you tell? I mean, obviously we don't have all of our cats looking like the picture that we just saw. So how do we tell, if a cat is overweight? Well, first thing is, by nature, cats are predators, and they don't really carry around a lot extra because if you're really heavy, you can't go catch what you're trying to eat.
Right.
So they're by nature very sort of torpedo-shaped, okay, as opposed to football-shaped.
Gotcha.
Or cello-shaped.
They're very cylindrical bodies.
Should be cylindrical bodies.
Okay.
Yeah. So kind of like cheeks, shoulders, ribs, hips, kind of all coming down in one line together. The average framed cat, now I know half of you out there are saying, well, my cat just has a big frame. Not usually, unless they're a Maine Coon or something, they don't have a big frame.
Right.
But for the average size cat, they're going to be somewhere between 18 to 20 inches long from the crown of their head to the base of their tail, and they're going to weigh about 8 to 10 pounds.
Right.
So, just to sort of get you some landmarks to look at, this is a body condition scoring chart that we actually use at our clinic. It's put out by IMS. This is a 5-stage body condition score, and there's another one that's a 9-level one, but the 5 one is the one we use at our clinic. So we can see on here, when we see in the middle, the number 3 is the ideal cat. We can see that we are really fairly cylindrical on there, and you look from the side, and there's a little bit of a waist going up after the rib cage. We start to getting down into the 4s and 5s where we have the overweight cat and obese cat, and now we're starting to see more of that sort of cello shape from above, and they're starting to look more more like a cone or an angle moving to the back, where they're wider in the back than the front.
So they tend to carry most of that weight sort of towards the hind end more than
they
other
do.
places. Yeah.
Yeah, they tend to more. And the couple of other things that you can check when you're just petting them at home, because if we have cats like Persians or long-haired domestic long-haired domestic cats or that kind of thing, it's going to be kind of hard to tell. Am I you're all fluff, I can't really tell. So you have to get your hands on them.
Right.
So what you should be able to, just some landmarks, you should be able to tell that they do own ribs. Okay. There's just really not anything that lives between the skin and the ribs normally.
Yeah.
So you should be able to lightly brush your hands along their sides and feel ribs. This shouldn't be like a washboard. You shouldn't be able to see them from across the room if they're wet, but you should be able to feel that they are there and not really have to push in too hard.
That's good.
The other thing is, when you run across the back, you should be able to tell that they own hips. Again, you don't want them to be pointy, but you should be able to tell that they are there, as opposed to around.
Right. Okay. So when you have a cat that is greatly overweight, a lot of the same health problems accrue to humans, right? Including, and we have
lots of things.
A list here.
We have diabetes and heart and lung disease and arthritis, high blood pressure. There's your second cool doctor word of the day: hypertension. High blood pressure. Certain forms of cancer, especially abdominal cancer, inside the abdomen cancers. And from some of the other studies that have been done, we know that chronically overweight and obese pets will live on average about 2 years less than their ideal weight counterparts.
Gotcha.
So it really makes a huge impact. And just to kind of give you a little sense of scale, about, when you go in for your exam and the doctor says, okay, well, looks like, last year we weighed about 12.25 pounds, and this year we're at about 13.5, and, we just kind of inchy these things up.
Right.
When you compare that to the target weight, if you want to kind of put it in a human equivalent sort of scale, a pound over, roughly, this is not a linear relationship, but roughly, about a pound overweight of cat is equivalent to about 15 pounds of person.
Which is significant.
Which is significant. So, let's say, for example, you have a 14, 15-pound cat, which is very common, that what I see come into the clinic.
Right.
And that cat's ideal weight, even if it's 10, we said they're usually 8 to 10, so even if it's 10 and they weigh 15, now this is a 5'4" woman who should weigh 120 pounds, who now weighs nearly 200. So, just to kind of put it into some perspective. So you're going to get some bad things going on. So we really
Plus, you can't get them into the cat carrier anymore.
Yeah,
they are really tough. That little door, they don't want to do that anymore.
And then they're ginormous and they can't breathe, and it's just a mess.
Yeah.
So what we really want to stress to our cat owners when they come in, and we have to talk about their pet being overweight, is that it is not really a question of if they will develop weight-related problems. It's more like when and how many.
Okay.
So it really plays a huge impact.
Okay. So what's our next big threat here from an overweight cat?
Big threat. So we got the overweight kitties to the side.
Next big problem with
so next problem we'll talk about is a nutrient called taurine, which is an essential nutrient, which means that cats can't make it. They have to take it in from their diet.
Gotcha.
Okay. Most of the time they're getting these from furry woodland creatures and things that they're hunting.
Yeah.
But this is, like I said, an essential nutrient. It can really play havoc with vision, with the immune system. There's also a form of a cardiomyopathy or a heart muscle disease that we can get from taurine deficiency. Now, if you're feeding your cat a normal, sort of high-grade prepared cat food, you're probably not going to run into a taurine deficiency because all of the reputable cat food companies add that to their food. This is going to come more into an effect when we see things like cats that are eating only dog food, or cats that are getting a lot of people food, or some of the home cooked diets that aren't balanced properly.
Right. Okay. So that's a pretty easy one to take care of.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right.
Now there's a whole slew, and like I said, why this is not an all-inclusive list is because there are a whole slew of diseases and syndromes that happen when we get our vitamins and minerals out of whack.
Right.
So we can get too much of a good thing and get vitamin toxicoses actually, and which cause other problems. But we can get our minerals out of whack too. And we did a bladder show and talked about how minerals are processed in the urine and that kind of thing. But calcium and phosphorus have to be set into a very specific ratio to each other to help the body regulate them. So if you have a problem where that ratio is not happening, you can get not only skeletal muscle problems, but also you're going to be at risk for those bladder and urinary issues that we talked about. Sodium is another big one. So, for feeding, this is going to come into play mostly when we're feeding, off the path and going down, feeding them a lot of human foods or treats and that kind of thing, where it's just not nutritionally balanced for a cat. And we can get problems with hypertension, with urinary tract disease, and all kinds of good stuff.
Right. So table scraps are a big
we'll ixnay
culprit.
on
Some
those.
was. Yeah. I mean, I will tell you from personal experience, the feeding the cat what you're eating is a really bad idea. Not even from the standpoint, when you know what I'm talking about. I think, is because then they drive you nuts. They won't leave you alone. They think that when you're eating something, they can just kind of come up and have some. And we had a cat like that.
Don't create a monster.
Don't create a monster by giving them all your food. That's just terrible. So anyway, we're going to come back in just a minute, and the next subject on the docket here is how to keep your cat's nutrition on track. So stay with us here on Tales from the Road.
Got a question or a comment for Dr. Jill Windy? Get in touch at tales@rvnn.tv or leave a voicemail at 877-578-RVNN extension 705. Hey, why not email a photo of you and your pet on the RV trail? We love pictures and we might just use it in an upcoming episode. Follow RV Newsnet on Facebook and Twitter, and you can receive text messages to alert you when we're streaming live by texting RVNN to 72727. That way, you can join us live in the chat room, ask questions, and become part of the RV Newsnet family. Remember, any photos or other material submitted to us become the property of RV Newsnet and cannot be returned. For more TV like this from the world of RVs, head to rvnn.tv.